The message arrived on a cold Tuesday morning. Admiral Unibeak stood in the command center of Earth's orbital station, her eyes fixed on the holographic display. The words floated in the air, glowing in angry red. The Kalani Empire was giving humanity 72 hours to surrender 3 colony worlds. If they refused, war would follow. Una read the message 3 times. She was not surprised. She had seen this coming for months. The Kalani were a proud species. They stood 8 feet tall, with thick armored skin and 4 muscular arms. They had conquered dozens of worlds across the galaxy. To them, humans were nothing. Just another weak species to be pushed around. She turned to face her officers. They were silent, waiting for her reaction. Some looked afraid. Others looked angry. A young lieutenant named J.M. stood near the back, his fists clenched at his sides. "Get me a connection to Earth," Eunice said calmly. "The Council needs to see this." Within an hour, the United Earth Council was in emergency session. Representatives from every nation sat in a massive circular chamber, their faces projected on screens around the room. At the center stood Una, presenting the Kalani demands. "They want our outer colonies," she explained. "Nova Busan, New Incheon, and Port Sagang. These worlds contain rare minerals worth trillions. The Kalani believe we are too weak to refuse." The chamber erupted in argument. Some demanded immediate surrender. Others called for negotiation. A few brave voices suggested fighting back, but they were quickly silenced by practical concerns. "We have 47 warships," one representative said. "The Kalani have thousands. This is not a war we can win." Dr. Taekwon, the lead xenobiologist, stepped forward. He was a thin man with kind eyes and gray hair. He had spent 30 years studying alien species. He understood how they thought better than anyone. "May I speak?" he asked quietly. The room fell silent. Taekwon was respected by everyone. "The Kalani are not offering negotiation," he said. "They are offering humiliation. If we surrender these worlds, they will come back for more. They will take and take until nothing remains. I have studied their history. This is how they operate. They identify weak species and consume them slowly." "Then what do you suggest?" a representative demanded. "We cannot fight them." Taekwon smiled sadly. "That is where you are wrong. We can fight them. The question is whether we are willing to pay the price." Admiral Unibeak stepped forward again. Her voice was steady and cold. "The Galactic Union has already refused to help us," she said. "They consider us expendable. The Kalani know this. They believe we have no allies, no hope, and no choice. But they have made a grave miscalculation." She paused, looking around the room. "They do not know what we are." The debate continued for hours. In the end, the vote was close. But humanity chose to fight. The decision sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Every species expected humans to surrender. They were wrong. High Lord Vorn sat on his throne in the Kalani capital, surrounded by his advisors. He was massive, even by Kalani standards, his body covered in battle scars from 100 conquests. When he received Earth's response, he laughed so hard the walls shook. "Read it again," he commanded. His advisor, a nervous creature named Thal, cleared his throat. "The message contains only 3 words. High Lord. It says, 'Come and take them.'" Vorn laughed again. "These humans have courage. I will give them that. Stupid, pointless courage. But courage nonetheless." He leaned forward, his forearms gripping the arms of his throne. "Send the 3rd Fleet. 500 ships. I want those colonies in our hands within a week." Ambassador Rilla stood nearby, watching silently. She was different from most Kalani. She had traveled to many worlds, met many species. She had even visited Earth once briefly. The humans had seemed so ordinary, so fragile, but something about them had made her uncomfortable. Something in their eyes. "High Lord," she said carefully, "perhaps we should reconsider." "The humans may be more dangerous than we assume," Vorn snorted. "Dangerous. They live for barely a century. They have no natural weapons. Their bodies are soft and easily broken. What could possibly make them dangerous?" Rilla hesitated. She did not have a good answer. Only a feeling, a cold sense of warning that she could not explain. Their history, she finally said. I have studied it. They spent thousands of years fighting each other. Wars that killed millions of their own kind. They developed weapons capable of destroying their entire planet. And yet they did not destroy themselves, Vorn said dismissively, which proves they are cowards at heart. They talk of violence, but lack the will to follow through. Rilla wanted to argue, but she knew it was pointless. Vorn had already made his decision. Across the galaxy, humanity prepared for war. Admiral Unibeak worked without sleep, coordinating defenses. Captain J.M. volunteered to lead the frontline forces at Nova Busan. Dr. Taekwon began analyzing Kalani weaknesses. Searching for any advantage, on Earth, factories that had been silent for generations roared back to life. Weapons that had been sealed away in vaults were brought out and modernized. Young men and women lined up at recruitment centers, ready to fight for their homes. In a quiet moment, Taekwon found himself talking to an alien colleague, a small furry creature named Pick from a peaceful species called the Mori. They had been friends for years. You should leave, Taekwon told him gently. This war will be ugly. Your people are not built for such things. Pick looked at him with wide, sad eyes. I do not understand, my friend. Why do you not surrender? The Kalani are so much stronger. You cannot win. Taekwon was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice soft but heavy with something ancient. Your species evolved on a peaceful world, he said. You had no predators, no wars. You do not understand what we are. Humans were not given peace. We had to fight for every single day of our existence. We fought the land. We fought the weather. We fought the animals. And most of all, we fought each other. He looked out the window at the stars. The Kalani think they are predators and we are prey. They are wrong. We are not prey. We have never been prey. We are the thing that even predators learn to fear. The Kalani have poked a sleeping monster, and now that monster is waking up. Pick shivered. For the first time, he looked at his human friend and saw something he had never noticed before. Something old and dangerous hiding behind those gentle eyes. What will happen now? He whispered. Taekwon did not answer. He did not need to. The answer was already written in the stars. In the fleet of Kalani warships now speeding toward human space, and in the cold smile spreading across, Admiral Unibeak's face as she watched them come. The galaxy was about to learn a lesson it would never forget. The Kalani Third Fleet arrived at Nova Busan on a Sunday morning. 500 warships filled the sky like a swarm of angry insects. Their commander, Fleet Master Goroth, looked down at the small human colony with contempt. This would be easy. This would be quick. He would be home in time for the victory celebration. Open a channel to the surface, he commanded. Tell them to surrender or die. The message was sent. Minutes passed. There was no response. Goroth frowned. Send it again. Perhaps their primitive technology failed to receive it. Again silence. Down on the surface, Captain J.M. stood in an underground bunker, watching the alien fleet on his tactical display. Around him, soldiers prepared for battle. They checked their weapons, said quiet prayers, and waited. Sir, Lieutenant Hannah Cho said, they are demanding surrender again. Jay smiled. It was not a happy smile. Let them wonder. Let them get nervous. Every minute they wait is another minute for our people to reach the shelters. Hannah nodded. She was young, but brilliant. She had designed the defense plan herself, spending weeks studying Kalani tactics. She knew exactly how they liked to fight, and she knew exactly how to break them. In orbit, Fleet Master Goroth was growing impatient. Enough games. Begin the planetary bombardment. Destroy their cities. That will make them talk. His weapons officer hesitated. Fleet Master, our sensors are detecting something strange. There appear to be energy signatures hidden within the asteroid field nearby. Goroth waved his hand dismissively. Mining equipment. Ignore it. Fire on the colony. The first missiles launched. They streaked toward the surface, bright lines of death cutting through the atmosphere. Then, without warning, they exploded. Every single one of them. Miles above the ground. What happened? Goreth demanded. Before anyone could answer, the asteroid field came alive. Hidden defense platforms revealed themselves, their weapons charging. Human ships that had been disguised as Space Orcs powered up their engines and began to move. It was a trap. Engineer Si Woo-yoon sat in the engine room of the Soul's Pride, Captain Jay's ship. His fingers danced across control panels as he pushed the engines beyond their limits. Warning lights flashed everywhere. Alarms screamed. He ignored them all. "Captain," he said into his communicator, "I've given you 30% more power. But this ship might fall apart when this is over." Jay's voice crackled back. "Siwoo, you beautiful genius. That's all I need." The Soul's Pride shot forward like a bullet. Behind it, 20 human ships followed in a tight formation. They flew directly toward the heart of the Kalani fleet. It was a suicide run. Every tactical rule said they should die within seconds. They did not die. Jay flew his ship through the Kalani formation, weaving between massive warships that could not turn fast enough to track him. Human ships were smaller, faster, and piloted by people who seemed to have no fear of death. Missiles and energy beams filled the space around them, but they kept moving, kept fighting, kept pushing forward. Lieutenant Hannah called out targets. Siwoo kept the engines running. And Jay flew like a man possessed, his hands moving so fast they seemed to blur. The first Kalani command ship exploded. Then another. Then another. Fleetmaster Goreth watched in disbelief as his fleet fell into chaos. The humans were not supposed to fight like this. They were supposed to be weak. They were supposed to surrender. "All ships, focus fire on those small vessels," he screamed. "Destroy them." But the human ships were already gone, diving behind a moon, regrouping for another attack. On the ground, the battle was even worse for the Kalen. Sergeant Minho Park had been a soldier for 30 years. He had fought in Earth's last great civil war, a conflict that most humans tried to forget. He had seen things that still haunted his dreams. But those experiences had made him something dangerous. They had made him a survivor. When the Kalani ground troops landed, they expected frightened civilians and a few scattered defenders. Instead, they found Minho and his soldiers waiting in the ruins of an abandoned city. The aliens marched forward in perfect formation. Their armor gleamed. Their weapons hummed with power. They looked unstoppable. Minho let them come. He waited until they reached the city's center. Then he pressed a button on his communicator. Buildings exploded. Streets collapsed. Hidden soldiers opened fire from every direction. The perfect Kalani formation became a screaming mess of chaos and confusion. A fight without honor. A Kalani officer shouted into his radio. They hide like cowards. They use tricks. Minho heard the transmission and laughed. Honor was a luxury for those who could afford it. Humanity had learned long ago that survival mattered more than pride. The battle lasted 8 hours. When it was over, 127 Kalani ships had been destroyed or disabled. Thousands of their soldiers lay dead on the ground. The humans had lost 12 ships and a few hundred fighters. It was not even close. The surviving Kalani retreated. They ran. The proud warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds turned their ships around and fled. From a species they had dismissed as weaklings. Across the galaxy, other species watched the battle recordings in stunned silence. The footage spread like fire through the communication networks. Everyone saw the same thing. Tiny human ships diving into the heart of a massive fleet. Human soldiers fighting with savage cleverness. Humans who refused to die, who refused to surrender, who seemed to become more dangerous the harder they were pushed. Ambassador Rila contacted the Galactic Union immediately. Her hands shook as she spoke. "I warned the High Lord," she said. "I told him the humans were different." He did not listen. The Union Council stared at her, still processing what they had witnessed. "How did they do this?" someone asked. "Our analysis said they had no chance." Rilla shook her head slowly. Your analysis was wrong. My analysis was wrong. We all made the same mistake. We looked at humans and saw their weaknesses, their short lives, their soft bodies, their small ships. We did not see what those weaknesses had forced them to become. She paused, her voice dropping to a whisper. They are not weak. They have simply learned to hide their strength. And now that they have shown it, I fear what comes next. In his command center, Captain J.M. allowed himself one moment of satisfaction. His ship was damaged. His crew was exhausted, but they had one. The first blow had been struck. Then he turned to Hannah. How long before the main Kalani fleet arrives? 2 weeks at most, she answered. They will send everything this time. Jay nodded. Good, that first battle was just a warning. Now, the real war begins. He looked out at the stars, his eyes hard and cold. And we are just getting started. The Galactic Union called an emergency summit. Representatives from over 200 species gathered in the Great Hall of Unity, a massive station floating in neutral space. The hall was built for peace and cooperation. Today, it was filled with fear. Ambassador Yoon Song stood at the center of the chamber. She was a small woman with silver hair and gentle eyes. She had spent her life building bridges between worlds, seeking understanding and friendship. Now she had a different task. She had to make the galaxy understand what humanity truly was. Thank you for gathering, she began, her voice calm and steady. I know you are afraid. I know you have questions. I will try to answer them. A tall, insect-like creature spoke first. Your species was classified as Class 7, the lowest tier. Weak, primitive, harmless. How did you defeat the Kalani Third Fleet? Yoon smiled softly. Because that classification was wrong. And I think deep down you always knew it was wrong. You just did not want to believe the truth. She pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared behind her. It showed images of Earth's history. Beautiful cities. Green forests. Blue oceans. This is our home, she said. It looks peaceful, does it not? But let me show you its true face. The images changed. War, fire, destruction. Armies clashing on blood-soaked fields. Explosions turning cities to ash. Nuclear mushroom clouds rising into poisoned skies. The alien representatives stirred uncomfortably. For thousands of years we fought each other, Yoon continued. We invented new ways to kill. We perfected the art of destruction. We created weapons that could end all life on our planet, and we used them. Not against aliens. Against ourselves. She paused, letting the horror sink in. Every war taught us something. Every conflict made us stronger, smarter, more dangerous. We developed strategies for every situation. We learned to fight in jungles and deserts and cities and mountains, in the air and under the sea. We learned to fight when outnumbered. We learned to fight when outgunned. We learned to fight when all hope was lost. An elderly alien named Scholar Tovik leaned forward. He was ancient, even by his species standards. His eyes had seen civilizations rise and fall. He had dedicated his life to studying history. I have a question, he said slowly. Your species evolved as hunters, correct? You nodded. Yes, persistence hunters. Tovik's face grew pale. Explain this to the others. They need to understand. Yoon turned to the assembly. On Earth, we were not the fastest animals. We were not the strongest. We had no claws or fangs or armor. But we had something else. Endurance. We could run for hours without stopping. Days if necessary. When we hunted, we did not chase our prey to catch it. We chased our prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Until its heart gave out. Until it simply could not run anymore. The hall was completely silent. We are not sprinters, Yoon said quietly. We are marathoners. We do not give up. We do not stop. We keep coming, no matter how long it takes, until our enemy is broken. A Kalani representative stood up angrily. You speak of ancient history. Primitive hunting. What does this have to do with modern warfare? Yoon looked at him with something close to pity. It has everything to do with modern warfare. You think war is about who has the bigger fleet, who has the better weapons, who can strike the hardest blow. But that is not war. That is just the beginning of war. She stepped forward. War is about who can endure the longest, who can take the most pain, who can lose everything and still keep fighting. And I promise you, no species in this galaxy can outlast humanity. We will fight when we are starving. We will fight when we are wounded. We will fight when our homes are burning and our families are dying. We will fight until there is nothing left. And if there is nothing left, we will find a way to fight from beyond the grave. The Kalani representative sat down slowly, his face troubled. Scholar Tavik spoke again, his voice heavy with old memories. There was a species like this once. Long ago, before most of your civilizations existed, they nearly consumed half the galaxy before they destroyed themselves in their own endless wars. We called them the Bane. The name sent a shudder through the assembly. Everyone knew the stories. The Bane were nightmares from ancient history. Monsters who had slaughtered billions. I have studied the records, Tovik continued. The genetic markers. The behavioral patterns. The psychological profiles. He looked directly at Yoon. Humans share significant similarities with the Bane. I believe you may be their descendants. Perhaps colonists they left behind? Perhaps an experiment they abandoned. Yoon did not deny it. We do not know our full history. But I will tell you this. If we are the children of the Bane, we are not our parents. They destroyed themselves because they could not stop fighting. We have learned to choose our battles. We have learned mercy. Have you? Tovik asked. Or have you simply not been pushed hard enough? Before Yoon could answer, alarms began to sound throughout the station. A new message was being broadcast across the galaxy. High Lord Vorn had made his response. The display showed his massive form, his forearms raised in fury. The Kalani Empire does not accept defeat. The loss of our third fleet was a fluke, a moment of luck for these pathetic humans. I hereby order the full mobilization of our war machine. 2,000 ships. 5 million soldiers. We will crush these insects and scatter their ashes across the stars. The assembly erupted in panic. Some species called for intervention. Others demanded neutrality. A few quietly began calculating how to ally with whichever side won. General Ajun Shin was watching the broadcast from Earth. He was an old man with a scarred face and tired eyes. They called him the Old Wolf because he had never lost a battle. He had been fighting wars since he was 16 years old. His aide rushed in. General, the Kalani are mobilizing everything. Our intelligence says they will arrive in 2 weeks. Hajun nodded slowly. He did not look worried. If anything, he looked almost sad. I still do not understand, he murmured. Sir. Hajun turned to face his aide. That first battle. We were holding back. We were giving them a chance to be smart. To recognize their mistake and walk away, shook his head. They think because they have more ships, they will win. They think numbers mean victory. He walked to the window and looked out at Earth, spinning slowly in the darkness of space. His home, his people, everything he had spent his life protecting. When I was young, I fought in a war where we were outnumbered 10-1, he said quietly. Everyone said we would lose. Everyone said to surrender. We did not listen. We fought for 6 years. We lost everything. Our cities, our friends, our families, and in the end, we won. Not because we were stronger, because we refused to die, turned back to his aide. Contact Admiral Beak. Tell her to begin Phase 2. The Kalani won a real war. We will give them one they will never forget. Across the galaxy, Ambassador Yoon Song made one final statement to the Galactic Union before ending her broadcast. We did not want this war, she said. We only wanted to live in peace. But you have pushed us. You have threatened our families. You have burned our homes. And now you will learn the truth that every enemy of humanity has learned throughout our long and bloody history. Gentle eyes turned hard as stone. You should have left us. Alone, The war began on 5 fronts at once. High Lord Vorn sent his fleets to every human colony simultaneously. He believed overwhelming force would break humanity's spirit. He believed wrong. At Nova Busan, Captain JM commanded the defense. His fleet had grown since the first battle. Ships from Earth, from Mars, from every human settlement had joined him. They were still outnumbered, 4-1. It did not matter. All ships, this is the captain, Jay said over the fleet-wide channel. The enemy thinks we are afraid. They think if they bring enough guns, we will run. Let us show them how humans respond to fear. Attack formation. Full speed ahead. The human fleet dove into the Kalani Armada, like wolves into a flock of sheep. Pilot. Salmon Lee flew at the front of the formation. Her fighter was small and fast, painted black with a single white ghost symbol on the side. The Kalani had learned to fear that symbol. They called her the Ghost because she appeared from nowhere, struck without warning, and vanished before they could respond. She had 200 confirmed kills. Today, she planned to add many more. "Go squadron on me," she said calmly. "Target the carrier on the left flank. We are going inside." Her wingman's voice crackled through the radio. Inside the hangar bay? Straight through the front door. Trust me, they flew directly at the massive Kalani carrier. Defense guns tried to track them, but could not keep up. Salman led her squadron through the energy shields, into the hangar bay, and out the other side. Along the way, they dropped explosives that detonated the ship's fuel reserves. The carrier exploded in a ball of fire. Salman and her squadron emerged from the flames, their ships scorched but intact. "Ghost Squadron kills confirmed," she reported, moving to next target. On another front, Specialist Eugeno fought a different kind of battle. She sat in a small room on a hidden station, surrounded by computer screens. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she broke into the Kalani battle network. She was young, barely 25, but she was the best hacker humanity had ever produced. She could make machines do impossible things. And right now, she was turning the enemy's own systems against them. "Access granted," she whispered to herself. "Hello, Kalani fleet. Let me introduce some chaos." Across the battlefield, Kalani ships suddenly lost control. Their weapons fired at their own allies. Their navigation systems sent them crashing into each other. Their communications filled with static and false orders. A Kalani commander screamed into his radio. "What is happening?" "Our systems are possessed." Eugen smiled. "Not possessed. Just borrowed." On the ground at New Incheon, the fighting was brutal. Kalani soldiers had landed in force, expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they found Sergeant Minho Park and 10,000 human soldiers waiting in the ruins. The battle lasted 3 days. The Kalani had better armor and stronger weapons. The humans had something else. They had tricks, they had traps, and they had a willingness to die that terrified their enemies. Manik Doen Kung ran through the battlefield, ignoring the explosions around him. He was not a fighter. He was a healer. But on a human battlefield, healers went where the wounded were. And the wounded were everywhere. He found a Kalani soldier lying in a crater, blue blood pooling beneath him. The alien looked up with terrified eyes, expecting death. Instead, Doen knelt beside him and began treating his wounds. A human soldier nearby shouted at him, "Doc, what are you doing?" That is the enemy. Doen did not stop working. He was the enemy. Now he is a patient. I do not let patients die. "Any patients?" The Kalani soldier stared at him in disbelief. "Why? We came to kill you." "To take your world." Dohan wrapped a bandage around the alien's wound. "Yes, and you failed. But killing you now will not bring back the friends I have lost. It will not rebuild the cities you have burned." He looked into the alien's eyes. "This is what makes us different. We can be monsters when we need to be, but we can also choose to be something else. That choice is what makes us human." The battle continued, but word of what the human medic had done spread through the Kalani ranks. Some were confused. Some were suspicious. But a few began to wonder if they had misjudged this strange species in space. Admiral Unibeak commanded the overall defense. She had not slept in 4 days. Her eyes were red and her hands shook with exhaustion. But her mind was still sharp, still calculating, still finding ways to turn weakness into strength. Enemy fleet at Sector 7 is retreating, her tactical officer reported. They are falling back to regroup. Do not let them, Una ordered. Send the 5th Squadron to pursue. No rest, no regrouping. We chase them until they break. This was the human way of war. Persistence, endurance. The enemy could win a battle, but they could never find peace. The humans would follow them, hunt them, wear them down until they collapsed. The tide began to turn. On every front, the Kalani advance stalled. Then it reversed. Human fleets pushed into Kalani territory for the first time. High Lord Vorn received the reports in his throne room. His face twisted with rage. Impossible. We have the numbers. We have the power. We had the numbers, his advisor corrected quietly. We have lost 300 ships in the past week alone. Our soldiers are exhausted. They cannot match the humans' endurance. They fight all day, sleep for an hour, and fight again. Our troops need proper rest. The humans seem to need nothing. Orn slammed his fist against his throne. Then send more soldiers. More ships. High Lord, we have nothing more to send. Everything is already committed. Orn's eyes widened. For the first time, he felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. His generals gathered in secret that night. They spoke in whispers, afraid of being overheard. They agreed that the war was lost. They agreed that Vorn's pride had doomed them all. And they agreed on what had to be done. When the assassin's blade found Vorn's heart, he was still sitting on his throne, still dreaming of victory. His last thought was confusion. He still did not understand how this had happened, how a weak little species had destroyed everything he had built. Ambassador Ryla sent the message to Earth immediately. High Lord Vorn is dead. The Kalani Empire surrenders. Please, Admiral Beak, tell us your terms. We will give you anything. Just stop. Please stop. Admiral Unibeak read the message in her command center. Around her, officers cheered and embraced. They had won. The impossible had happened, but Una did not celebrate. She thought about the friends she had lost, the ships that would never come home, the soldiers who had given everything. She typed her response carefully. We do not want your worlds. We do not want your resources. We do not want slaves or tribute or revenge. We want only one thing. We want you to remember. Remember what happened when you attacked humanity. Remember the price you paid. And tell everyone, tell every species in the galaxy. Tell them what happens when you threaten our homes. Tell them what we become when we are forced to fight. She paused, then added one final line. And tell them we are done fighting. Unless someone is foolish enough to make us start again. The war was over, but its echoes would ring across the stars forever. 6 months had passed since the war ended. The galaxy was still trying to understand what had happened. The Kalani Empire was no more. Their worlds remained intact. Their people were alive. Humanity had taken nothing from them except their pride and their weapons. It was mercy on a scale the galaxy had never seen. Conquerors were supposed to conquer. Winners were supposed to take. But the humans simply packed their ships and went home. The Galactic Union held a special assembly to discuss humanity's new classification. For centuries, they had organized species into 7 tiers based on perceived threat level. Humans had been Class 7, the lowest. Now, the Council had to admit their entire system was flawed. We cannot classify them, the Council leader announced. They do not fit any category. They are not conquerors, but they could be. They are not destroyers, but they have the power to destroy. They choose peace, but they are capable of the most devastating war. After days of debate, they created a new classification that had never existed before. Unclassified, apex predator status. Humanity was officially the most dangerous species in the known galaxy. The news spread quickly, and everything changed. The Vorid hegemony had been preparing to invade a peaceful world called Meridian for years. The day after humanity's reclassification, they announced a sudden change of plans. Trade agreements replaced invasion fleets. The word war disappeared from their vocabulary. A brutal warlord in the outer rim had been conquering small colonies without opposition. 1 week after the human victory, a human patrol ship appeared in his space. They did not fire. They did not threaten. They simply watched. The warlord immediately withdrew to his homeworld and never raided again. Across the stars, bullies grew quiet. Aggressors became peaceful. The weak finally had a protector, and that protector never asked for payment or praise. Admiral Unibeak stood on the bridge of humanity's new flagship, the Soul's Dream. It was 10 times larger than any ship she had commanded before, but its mission was not war. It was protection. "Welcome to the Terra Shield Initiative," she said to the assembled officers. "Our purpose is simple. Any peaceful species threatened by aggression can call upon us. We will answer. We will stand between them and their enemies. And we will make it very clear that attacking the innocent means answering to humanity." Captain JM had been promoted to Admiral. His reckless charge into the Kalani fleet had become legendary. Young pilots across the galaxy studied his tactics. Children pretended to be him in their games, but the fame made him uncomfortable. "I did not fight for glory," he told a reporter who asked about his heroism. "I fought because my home was threatened. I fought because good people were in danger. If there is no danger, I would rather spend my time exploring the stars, meeting new friends, learning new things." He was given command of humanity's first true exploration fleet. Their mission was not conquest, but discovery. They sought not enemies, but allies. Dr. Taekwon returned to his research. But now he did not work alone. Alien scientists from dozens of worlds joined him. They studied each other, learned from each other, slowly began to build something beautiful: understanding. His old friend Pick from the Mori species visited him often. They would sit in the garden outside the research center, watching the sunset, talking about everything and nothing. "I never believed this was possible," Pick said one evening. "When the war began, I thought your species would either be destroyed or become destroyers. I did not imagine a third path." Tay smiled. "Humanity has always been good at finding third paths. It is what we do when the options presented to us are unacceptable. We create new options." "But why?" Pick asked. "You could rule the galaxy. You have proven your strength. Why do you choose to be guardians instead of emperors?" Tay was quiet for a long moment. "Because we have seen what empires cost. We have built empires on Earth many times. They always fell. They always brought suffering. We learned that true strength is not in domination. True strength is in knowing you could dominate and choosing not to," Scholar Tovik published. His findings about humanity's possible connection to the Bane, his paper was read by billions across the galaxy. Its conclusion surprised everyone. "Humans share many traits with the Bane," he wrote. "The same genetic markers, the same psychological patterns, the same terrifying capacity for violence. But there is one crucial difference. The Bane could not stop. Their hunger for conflict consumed them until they destroyed themselves. Humans have shown something the Bane never possessed: restraint. They call it many things: mercy, compassion, choice, whatever the name. It is the thing that separates them from their ancestors. They are not the new Bane. They are something the galaxy has never seen before. They are the Bane redeemed." Sergeant Minho Park retired from military service. He had fought enough for 100 lifetimes. He moved to a quiet village on Earth, grew vegetables, and taught young people the history of war so they would understand the value of peace. Engineer. Suhu Yoon started a school for engineering. Aliens traveled from across the galaxy to learn from him. They were amazed by his creativity, his willingness to break rules, his ability to make machines do the impossible. Lieutenant Hannah Cho became the youngest admiral in human history. Her tactical genius had saved thousands of lives during the war. Now she used that same genius to design defense systems for vulnerable worlds. Pilot Salman Lee disappeared for a while. She needed time away from fighting, away from killing. She found a peaceful world at the edge of explored space and spent a year simply watching the stars. When she returned, she joined Admiral J's exploration fleet. She had seen enough death. She wanted to see life. Manik Doan Kong opened a hospital that treated all species equally. The Kalani soldier he had saved during the war came to visit him once. The alien had lost his eye and walked with a limp, but he was alive. He brought his family to meet the human who had shown him mercy when he expected death. "I do not understand your species," the soldier said, "but I am grateful for what you are." Ambassador Yunsong continued her work at the Galactic Union. She was no longer ignored or dismissed. When she spoke, everyone listened. She used that influence to build bridges, to create understanding, to show the galaxy that humanity wanted friendship, not fear. One day, a young alien child approached her after a speech. The child was small and fuzzy, from a species that had hidden in terror during the war. "Are humans really that scary?" the child asked in a tiny voice. An knelt down and smiled gently. "We can be. When our families are threatened, when our friends are in danger, when the innocent are suffering, yes, we can be very scary." The child trembled slightly. Yan reached out and took the child's small hand. "But we do not want to be scary. We spent thousands of years fighting ourselves. We are tired of war. All we ever wanted was to live in peace, to explore the stars, to make friends, to learn and grow and share. Then why do people fear you?" The child asked Dot and thought carefully before answering. "Because they need to understand one thing first. If you come to hurt us, we will not stop until the threat is gone. We will fight until the end of time if we must. But if you come to us as friends," she squeezed the child's hand gently, "then you will have a friend who will fight just as hard to protect you. That is the human promise. Harm us and face our fury. Stand with us and have nothing to fear ever again." The child looked up with wide eyes full of wonder. "That sounds nice." Yun laughed softly. "It is. Would you like to be our friend?" The child nodded eagerly, and somewhere across the galaxy, a dozen more species made the same choice. The era of fear was ending. The era of friendship was just beginning. Humanity had shocked the galaxy by being monsters. Now they shocked it again by choosing to be something better, and the stars had never seemed so bright.